So I got into bad company, you know, and ended up smoking weed at some point in my life. So actually in a high school, it was a private school, it was a really good school. There was a bathroom called Baghdad. Now in Baghdad, people used to smoke weed, you know. Of course, eventually the principal knew that Apondo Moshi Likwena, so it was shut down and everything, you know. But yeah, I mean, I've done that. I've messed up. I've done a lot of things, you know. But I thank God that I'm not the way I used to be. So I started doing drugs when I was in high school, and it was all out of peer pressure. Nobody knew, I'm telling you, even people in church. I mean, the way I used to smoke weed and still go to church, you know, raise up my hands and dance in church, because we had a dancing group that was called Airs on Flame. We used to travel with our dad, my dad, you know, to Tanzania, East Africa, you know. Yeah, but I used to do drugs. I used to have a group of bad guys that we used to meet, you know, smoke weed, listen to dirty music, you know, do dirty stuff, you know, and all that, you know. But I think for me, my transformation came, and I was also into music. Actually, once when I was in Form 4, that's when we did, with my brother, we had a group called Kabasa. It was a famous group those days, actually, nominated so many times in Groove Awards. You know, our songs were playing almost on every TV station. I know people, old people, watu wa kitambo kidogo, they know Kabasa. We had a big song called Christian Boots. And, you know, so we used to do, so I'm transitioning from school, you know, I've already gotten into this bad company, doing drugs and all that. And then now I come into the music scene. I know I'm supposed to walk the way of the Lord. I know I'm supposed to be a good child, you know, a pastor's kid. But that's not what's happening with me. We go do gigs, and then after the gigs, man, we sometimes go to drink, you know. Like we would buy alcohol. Nobody knew this time, actually. And our songs were playing on Crossover. There was a show on Citizen TV called Crossover. These big shows, we are always on the big shows, you know. If somebody traces back, they will see us, you know. But we used to like go to gigs, perform in high schools on Sundays, do gigs. We used to do, there's a hotel in Naivasha called Crayfish. We used to go there with secular artists, you know, Kina Nonini, Kina Nani, all these people. We would meet together, do gigs. And then when we go home, we used to buy alcohol, you know, get into the house, behind the curtains, we drink, you know, do all those bad things, you know. And for me, I remember my turning point, my tipping point was one day we had gone to Meru. We had gone to perform in Meru, actually Chuka. There's a place called Chuka. So we're in Chuka, and all of a sudden, my whole life flashes before me. And I find myself crying out of the blues. I'm just tearing up. Not because the pastor is preaching a powerful message, not because there's anything happening, but because my life has flashed before me, and I've seen how messed up I am, and how I have this double life, you know. And that's how I changed. That's how from that day, I don't know, God gave me the strength. So me, I didn't get saved because my dad is a pastor. No, I got saved because for me, I kind of felt like it was the time for me. I think God had all, because the Bible says, I know the plans I have for you. Before you're formed in your mother's womb, I knew you and ordained you, you know. The Bible also talks about Jesus Christ, who was crucified before the foundations of the earth. It talks about how he chose us even before the foundations of the earth. So I kind of feel like that was my moment, like my divine moment to receive Jesus Christ. And I changed. I went mute. The people I went with didn't understand what's going on with me. But I had said, I'll shut my mouth, because we always, you know, perform and also use curse words behind the scenes. So I had a moment of reflection. It took around 1 week. We left the event, went back home. I locked myself in the room. I was fasting and praying for almost a whole week. You know, just praying and telling God, you know what, I'm sorry, change my life and all that. But some of these things didn't leave immediately. You know, people think that when you receive Jesus Christ, all your struggles just end immediately. But that's not the case. You know, the Bible says what the Spirit desires, the flesh is always in contention with the Spirit. So you find sometimes, yes, you're born again, you genuinely love Jesus, and that's why I don't judge people. If I hear somebody has messed up in a certain way, we are all humans. That's the bottom line.